Hello, my name is David Duffy. I'm a retired physician who wants to share healing thoughts with you. This is Healing Thoughts number 13. We're going to talk about congestive heart failure today. There are many ways to develop heart failure. Let's pretend that you've had high blood pressure for many years. Perhaps you had it for a long time without being treated. So when the blood vessels do not open up, your heart pumps harder to deliver the blood to the brain and elsewhere in the body. This causes enlargement of the heart. In order to push harder, they need more muscle. Just like a bodybuilder will develop strong muscles by weightlifting, the more you exercise, the more the muscle enlarges and grows. Now, when this happens for many years and the heart, the pumping part, left ventricle that pumps to the rest of the body, that gets thicker and thicker, and it reaches a point where it loses its strength. It's too bulky to function. And the body can no longer pump the blood to meet the needs of the exercise. When the blood goes from the lung into the heart, that blood needs to be pumped out. So it receives from the lungs and pumps out to the rest of the body. If it can't pump out the blood, there's a back pressure that pushes back against the blood in the lung. And what happens is that pressure pushes on the capillaries, and water from the blood leaks into the lung, and you feel short of breath. And an X-ray will show water in the lungs, even to the point that water is around the lungs. When the heart cannot pump blood out to the rest of your body, and your body is kind of on a low flow situation, you feel tired. You can't exert yourself. You're not as sharp. You feel fatigue. Okay. That's hypertensive heart disease. What about coronary artery disease? Okay, so you have the atherosclerosis in your heart, you have a heart attack. When you have a heart attack, a portion of your muscle dies and it's replaced with scar tissue. So if you're pumping the blood and part of the muscle is missing, it can't pump as hard. And again, you can have heart failure. The mildest form of heart failure is when you're fine, when you're relaxed and sedentary, but you exert yourself and that reserve is not able to pick up that extra work and you get short of breath. When you have severe heart disease and it's hard to pump all the time, you will be very short of breath and be unable to move around much at all. Okay. Now, the third kind of heart failure is from valvular heart disease, where the blood, the valve from the lung to the the heart, the mitral valve can be narrow from rheumatic fever or some scar tissue on the valve, or the aortic valve from the left ventricle to the rest of the body. So you have obstructions. That's more like a traffic jam when the Con Edison truck is in the way or repairs are going on. So the valve puts a blockage in the heart function and you feel the consequences, okay? There are other types. Another kind is when a virus infection does damage to the heart and causes the damage so that the heart is thicker and it cannot function as well. That's called cardiomyopathy, a disease of the muscles of the heart. Okay, so at this point, we have a reason for having heart failure. How do you feel? You find that you get short of breath when you exert yourself, climbing stairs, hurrying up, going a long distance, getting short of breath. Now, when your left ventricle is not working, the pressure of blood goes into the lung and causes congestion of the lung. If this heart failure affects the right side of the heart, the right ventricle, then it's hard to pump blood from the veins into the lungs. When the back pressure goes all the way to the right side and affects the veins coming into the heart, buildup of pressure in the liver and in the legs will put pressure for water to leak into the legs and even into the abdomen, and you have right-sided heart failure, and you have swelling of the legs called pedal, leg, foot edema, swelling of the feet. If we have swelling of the feet and we lie down, more water is going to come back to the heart and more goes to the lungs and you get short of breath. So a person with heart failure will be uncomfortable lying down and they feel more comfortable sitting up because the water in the lungs goes down into the legs and you can breathe okay. And when you lie down and the water comes back in the lungs, it's short of breath. So one of the first symptoms of heart failure might be that a person during the night wakes up suddenly short of breath. Paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, big words. Okay. So we go to the doctor sometimes. Now, a typical situation is on a holiday, okay. On a holiday, the person is doing okay, has a little bit of heart failure, not bothering them, but then on a holiday, they drink a lot of fluid, they eat salty foods, they overeat, and all of a sudden, a couple pounds of extra water is in the body, and the body can't pump it, and you get short of breath and heart failure, okay? You go to the doctor and he's going to take an x-ray and he's going to find water on the lungs. He's going to do a cardiogram and there's going to be a pattern that shows heart enlargement. He does a 2D echocardiogram. They take an echo of the heartbeat and he can calculate what percentage of blood in the ventricle is coming out. A normal person, when the heart beats, will get 50 to 70% of the blood out. A little blood remains, fills up, pumps out, like that. With heart failure, the ejection fraction, the percentage of blood pumped out of the heart, goes down. And severe cases of heart failure go down to 20%, 15% or less. Okay. So they know they can make a diagnosis and clearly see why your heart's not functioning. So what are we going to do about it? The doctor has some tricks. Your body, your lungs are filled with water. Your heart's not working too well. Let's call upon the kidneys to help. So we have a water pill called Lasix, furosemide. And when you go to the hospital and you're in serious trouble, they give you an intravenous dose of Lasix, and you start peeing out it, and the breathing gets better. When you go home, they give you the pills, 40 milligrams a day, or they make, twice a day or 80 milligrams at a time. It depends on the dose and how much they want to get out. When they give you water pills, you lose potassium, so they will give you a medicine to block potassium or give potassium itself. Now, in the past, the good medicine for heart failure was called digoxin, digitalis, which is from the foxglove plant. It's an herb that what it does, it has effect of blocking the sodium pump in your heart. And when more sodium is in the cell, that stimulates more calcium to build up. And when the calcium goes up, that calcium triggers the contraction of the muscle. So by kind of moving the calcium up a bit, we can increase the heart strength a bit and improve the heart, taking the old heart and getting it to make a bigger effort. Now there are other medicines that help out. One is called an ACE inhibitor. The kidneys make a hormone that stimulates another hormone in the lung to constrict blood vessels, to make the blood pressure go up. It's called angiotensin. If we block angiotensin and it doesn't constrict the blood relaxing, the heart can push it through better. So to help congestive heart failure, we can widen the blood vessels and put less load on the heart to get your blood around like that. Okay. Now, they also have pacemakers and defibrillators and things like that, which are fancier mechanisms for worse and worse patients. Now, this is all elaborate biochemistry and mechanics, electronic mechanics and stuff, to take the sick heart and get more out of it so that you can have less symptoms and function. But we're missing something. What can you do if you have this? Can you do anything to help yourself? Okay, so let's do a thought experiment. If you have congestive heart failure, should you go to the diner and have a 3-course meal? No, because that huge load of food is going to go in your, and the blood to digest it's going to be terrible. So we should simplify our diet and aim for very digestible foods. Okay. Now, when a person eats highly concentrated foods, the digestion brings concentrated foods into the body, and you get thirsty and you want to drink. They need the blood needs to be diluted because it's so concentrated, so your body craves water. Is that kind of food good for congestive heart failure? No, no. We don't want to waste any energy on food that is not helpful, and we don't want to do anything that makes the congestive heart failure worse. What about those delicious foods that you love to eat, but may not be nutritious, like cake, cookies, ice cream, those kind of things? They should go. Get rid of them. So what are some digestible foods, and that's good for you? Well, we're not going to have juice, but if we have a little fruit that has the natural water that is isotonic and compatible with your blood, and it's going to give you the vitamins and minerals and sugar to nourish you. So a little bit of fruit, munching on fruit, making fresh applesauce, things like that would be good. Are we going to have watermelon? No, that's too much water. Okay. What about vegetables? Okay, I don't know if the heart failure patient can chew all sorts of vegetables, but maybe some cooked vegetables, some steamed vegetables would be compatible, easy to digest, nutrition. What about protein? Okay, now we know that, quote, chicken soup is good for a cold or the flu, but making chicken soup with all that broth and all that salt, no, that's not such a good idea. Okay, if a person wants some little bit of baked chicken or something like that, and they can eat that, okay, fine. We're not having huge amount of proteins, we're having a little bit of protein, and see how, if you like that and it digests it, okay, that's fine. We're not overeating the meat, and we have a little protein. Now, vegetable proteins are perhaps more digestible. So chickpeas, lentil beans, black beans, things like that, that are easy to digest, that are soft. We're going to leave off the salt and heavy spices, but that could be good. The chickpeas are in hummus. I don't know how much garlic you want, but that things like that might be considered. What? Isn't that boring? Oh, applesauce and hummus. Oh, no. That's okay. We need to experiment and get a range of food that you like and are digestibles and can eat. You might want to eat small amounts throughout the day, not a heavy, big load, not a big dinner, things like that. We want to listen to the body. The body will be tired. The body will have a load on it. And you may, for a while, just kind of eat light and pee out the water and rest. Perhaps you will lose some weight because the body can't sustain, the heart is weak and cannot sustain a lot of extra tissue. There is a pattern of weight loss associated with heart failure. That is true. Okay. What about, okay, now, normally you go to the doctor and he says, take one Lasix in the morning, one Lasix at night, and this pill in the morning and this pill at night. Now, if a person is taking a huge number of pills with a huge amount of water to swallow all the pills, that doesn't make sense. We need to kind of cut down on the pills and stick with the essential pills. And if we are careful, we may be able to individualize customize the dose of medication. How's that? Okay. You came in with heart failure. You had 10 pounds of water extra on your body. Now, and we've been taking 2 water pills a day for the last couple days. Now we've lost fluid weight. We're breathing okay. And if you take another pill and the more water comes out, your blood pressure drops and you feel dizzy and more tired and get thirsty. Well, the amount of fluid in your blood is getting too low. Even if you have swelling in your legs, if we get rid of fluid in your blood vessels, we feel dizzy and weak. So we don't want to overdo the water pill. So if you feel comfortable, your breathing is okay, we're going to hold the water pill, and perhaps we follow our diet. And if we get too much fluid buildup and we get short of breath, we can take a water pill whenever the tide goes up, whenever that fluid builds up more than you need and you need some help to get rid of it. Now, when you have swelling in the legs and you lie down and stick your feet up, that's like drinking a glass of water. Your water is going to come down into your kidneys and pump it out. So we can control the amount of fluid coming out too. Okay. You have now gotten down to a reasonable amount of fluid. You still have some swelling. You're going to have to live with that for a while. The heart ejection fraction is like 25%, half of what it's normally, or even less than half. But now what can we do? Okay, so far you've been lying in bed and sitting in the chair. Okay, can you walk? How much can you do? Once I had a lady who had a viral infection of her lung and had a cardiomyopathy. And her primary physician says, oh, you have a very dangerous condition and you have to restrict your activity. So for a couple of years, she was afraid to go out of the house. She couldn't go shopping, and she was just paralyzed. So when I saw her for the first time, I said, well, okay, yeah, I hear you and you haven't done anything. But what does your body say? What did you ask your body? Huh? The doctor said this, and then I said, oh, wait a second. We need to have you see how far you can walk. If you're frightened, somebody go with you and take a little walk outside and see what happens. How far can you walk? Well, in her particular case, she discovered that she could do a lot more than she was doing it because of fear. And at one point, was able to go to Atlantic City once in a while on the bus and do that. So we want to listen to the body, begin to walk until you get short of breath or see what happens. And then as you progress, at first you could walk a half a block. Then with the same capacity, you can walk 1 block. Eventually, you can walk 5 blocks, 10 blocks. You can build up because as you get into shape and your muscles are more efficient and the heart is pumping out and your oxygen is doing better, then you can do more with yourself. You are in better condition and you can do more. Now, it is true that we can have terminal heart disease. We can, the heart ejection fraction is now 15 or 10, and we can hardly do anything. When that is the case, we want to decide, about death. When you are about to die, do you want to be taken to the hospital and have us pump and continue your breathing for you? You want to be on a respirator and live like that? That doesn't make sense. If you have heart failure and you're going to allow yourself to live as long as you can, and when your time is up, you'll accept that, then you might want to talk to the doctor about do not resuscitate orders to allow, when you die, you're allowed to die with dignity. As a matter of fact, my father was 94 and he had heart failure, just like I'm describing. For a couple of months, he lived at home. He had some oxygen. He did have some water pills. And it seemed that there was fluid around his lungs. And yes, we could have sent him to the hospital. They could have pulled the water off. He could have gotten special treatments and stuff. But he didn't want to do that. And I didn't really recommend it. So we kept him comfortable. And one night, my mother said, "You're dying." And he said to her, "I still cannot believe that God gave you to me." And he died in his sleep the next morning. When we have a life full and our body wears out to the point that it's time to leave, we should leave peacefully, with dignity, and not try to use heroic methods just to stay alive. With that, we will close this presentation. Think about how you could help your heart in your day-to-day life and what you can do, even if you don't have heart disease, to protect your heart. And next time, we will talk about strokes and blood clots.